Welcome back to another jazz breakdown. Tonight was ugly.
Got away from us there for sure.
Yeah. Um. First things first. Once again, there's so many things I question about decision making with lineups this coach does, and it really seems like we're doing nothing but hurting Kessler's confidence. It's just, I don't know. It's frustrating. I'd like to see more out of Kessler himself when he does get benched and come in, and come in and kind of show something. But it's like, it's very clear when he gets benched, he'll come in and play really soft and play really bad. And it's like, it's just all of a sudden a shell, and with young players where we're managing those kind of things, I don't understand benching him right after he had a great game. Finally gets put in the back in the starting lineup, has a great game, immediately gets benched in a game that we need a defensive presence at the rim.
Yep. It's interesting to watch, just kind of watching mannerisms and people's demeanor. And I'm kind of a deductive logic guy too, so I've tried and find correlations that would make sense with why we're going with certain lineups, and I can't figure it out. Don't have all the information inside, but it doesn't make sense to me. And then when Kessler does come in, he acts like a wee little lamb.
Every time he's come off the bench this season, he has played just like that. And I don't know.
It wasn't until finally third quarter where Kessler finally started bodying up and knew that Sabonis was going to be throwing that shoulder and that elbow into him, which everybody in the world knows that's coming. It makes me wonder why it takes that long to do that. Once again, we're going a little bit too much to our zone. We've gone 2 games in a row now, heavy zone, and so teams are figuring it out. They prepare for it. All of a sudden,
right?
You give pro teams, especially a team with as much quality as Sacramento Kings have, they'll start shredding that zone.
And that's the problem is when you run a zone against a really good shooting team. Really good shooting team that have a lot of unselfish players, a lot of players who are willing to move it. You end up with a guy who almost breaks the record for most threes in the game.
I mean, he's a fine offensive player, Keegan Murray, but that zone kind of helped him get into a rhythm, and all of a sudden he had a ton of threes, and Sabonis had a ton of assists, and just because they're moving the ball, and that's kind of what a zone does. Especially when we're running, lineups that are really good defensive lineups, do better at it. And we had a run there in the second quarter, bring it back down to 3.
Yeah, I mean they were up like 14 at one point. End of the first, we brought that lineup for the most part back in, and then pushed into the second quarter with that lineup. And all of a sudden, they weren't making shots. All of a sudden, they were having contested threes.
Yeah.
And it's the lineup of having Hendricks, Agbaji, Chris Dunn was out there for that one for a stretch, and then Markkanen was in for a good stretch during that lineup.
Yeah.
It's our best defensive lineup, very clear, but it's also like our only good defensive lineup.
Yeah, and I mean, Olynyk had a heck of a game on the assist side of the game, right?
100%. There's no denying that.
As far as a playmaker and moving the ball, it's does he come out a net positive with how many defensive liabilities he brings? We had a commenter talk about how he was number 2 rated defensive player.
Right.
That comes with some caveats. That has an asterisk by it, my man. That
no, 100%.
He's something that we have to constantly compensate for and try and cover for as a team,
and tonight's a clear example, right? When we don't start Kessler, we start Olynyk, and you can watch how many times Olynyk is out of position defensively, whether man or zone, just out of position, or how many times he ends up getting switched out into a guard, but then he'll just kind of watch out, and then he just kind of looks at him, and then they'll shoot, and then it's like, oh, I was supposed to put a hand up.
It's the same way that we were attacking Herter on their team, or Keon Ellis. That's what teams will do. And today it seemed like this game we got back into a little bit more of easy, non-contentious switching
right
on defense, whereas it seemed like we'd kind of gone away from that a little bit the last 2 games. And a good team like this will make you kind of force you into that. But once again, it wasn't that forced. So interesting. Have defensive questions. I mean, ran into the team. Congratulations to Keegan Murray. He put on a show out there. And then once he was in a rhythm, we even had good contest on him at the end of the game in a couple of spots, but he was just on fire by then. So
100%.
once that happens, man, it's you either got to get a piece of that ball or else it's going in.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. It's just, this was such a frustrating game from really start to finish. Just, and man, Tucker was bad. He was so bad. And it was like everyone in kind of the community forums and Twitter and everything like that is just ripping Tucker at this point, the Jazz fans. And so, like, we all see it. Game like tonight, I mean, he's going to get minutes. We don't really have any other guards available.
Even if he was sick, we heard that there was possibility he wasn't going to play, or
yeah,
I guess it wasn't specifically said that, but that he wasn't out there with the team this morning. So still got in there and got some minutes. It's quite difficult. Colin Sexton really went to the hole and put a lot of pressure on the rim. First half, they kind of defended the rim a little bit better, but as the game went on, he's put several games in a row now of decent amount of points, and that pressure on the rim is something. As long as we don't have kind of too much of it and other players trying to do the same thing where the decision making kind of falls off a cliff, then it's something of value to your team. But
it's where he is such a good fit as a 6-man role, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right now we're kind of in limited options, but
we have to do it.
Normal, healthy role, him in that 6-man role, he is just the high energy. I mean, he ends up getting Keon Lewis thrown out of the game.
You're right. Keon. Yeah, I said Ellis earlier, right? Keon Lewis. You're right. Me and names.
It is Keon Lewis, right? Now I'm confused. Keon.
The funky haircut dude.
Keon. He ended up getting him thrown out because, he had physically gone at him several times to where they end up getting a double tech, and then he ends up getting a technical later. But that's where Sexton is. He's great, fantastic, and has blown me away this year. That I didn't know if he had that kind of in him to be able to come be a 20-point-a-night scorer that he showed in Cleveland. I didn't know he was going to get that back.
Right, because in Cleveland, it was while everybody was injured, and he was kind of allowed to be the crazy high usage point guard starting and doing all that stuff, right? Which isn't what we want for our future.
So that was the question was, in a 6-man role, can he really be that kind of flamethrower punch off the bench? And yeah, I think he fits that perfectly. Super high energy, offensively, defensively. He's a guy that you just want to kill when you're playing against, right? Drives you nuts.
Absolutely. Mr. Keon is as much of a hardcore NBA player you think you are. You don't want to step into Colin Sexton's world of,
you do not want to mess
Crazyville.
Yeah.
It's like you got a freaking Rottweiler. You do not want to stare him in the eyes because homeboy's going to freaking devour you. So he's a unique dog that way, man. And what an interesting skill set. The other thing I wanted to bring up was, while a lot of our bigs were kind of being shoved around by Sabonis, you notice who kind of got in there, embodied him, and boxed him out and got rebounds and didn't give a damn about it?
Taylor Hendricks.
Hendricks. Homeboy, there were a couple of times where Sabonis had his arm underneath his and was grabbing with the other one trying to push, and Hendricks would just hold him on right there and getting the rebound and sprinting back down the court, hitting a 3 in the corner because Sabonis didn't want to get out and cover him.
Yep.
That's a sign from a rookie whose body is still changing, still evolving.
He's still 19.
Old.
That's the thing. He's 19.
He's still trying to hit the gym and figure out how many calories a day he can pound down.
Exactly.
That was interesting. He ended up 2 of 5 from 3. And
the first two,
we mentioned,
oh my gosh,
the first 2 threes. For some reason, he thought it was also a standing long jump competition because he was jumping way forward and shooting. That's tough to do. Kind of instead of jumping straight up, and but some more good signs about that youngster, that he's not overwhelmed in that moment with one of the big physical guys in the NBA, right? Sabonis is going to try to bully you, and he's kind of got one technique, and it's kind of big, slow, lumbering, big guy.
Yeah.
No matter what our announcer lady was saying.
Oh my gosh, she's trying to say that he moves like
he's 6'4" What'd she say?
6'6",
6'5",
185.
Yeah. Like,
She
no.
basically she's saying that he moves like he's Ochai Agbaji.
Yeah. No.
No, he doesn't.
No. He's slow.
Sabonis is a great player.
Yeah.
He does not move like a guard.
No. No. It's like the situations where I try and watch a game with my wife. Did I go too far? Let's pause for a moment.
Holly Rose.
Holly Rowe and the things that she said is
Bad.
just like, oh my gosh. We
She's
got to
so-
talk about their outfits.
I still don't understand
Do we-
why they brought her in, man. I wish they would have just kept Kristen Kenny. I thought Kristen Kenny was fantastic. Instead, we get Holly freaking ESPN Rowe. Please do more college games because it's less games we need to hear from you.
I've learned to love the college football season more than anything in life because it pulls her away from being on the Jets.
It's so bad, dude.
I swear, dude, it's like watching a game with my wife and, oh my gosh, what is that? Look at their outfits. What do you think about this? Just like, shut up.
Anyway, back to basketball. No, I've been super impressed with Taylor Hendricks' development, man.
I love the signs he's showing.
We are seeing some things, right, from certain young players. Hendricks, Sexton's showing extra things. And
Yeah.
so that's where, some injuries and stuff have been very good. The same person actually commented about Olynyk defensively. Normally, I'm all in on everything he comments. He's very similar he is very anti Jordan Clarkson. So my biggest fan. But
You guys are buddies.
but no, it's true though, right? He mentioned a lot of this has happened because Clarkson's out, and it's true. The injuries to Clarkson and obviously now Keontae, but some of the injuries, Markkanen being out, Collins being out, has allowed guys like Sexton to finally get into a certain role. Obviously, he's starting right now, but he was in that 6-man role and playing it well until Keontae got hurt. And then Taylor Hendricks being forced to get in the lineup because of Collins and Markkanen being out. And now all of a sudden, that development in the G League, we're starting to see it more. So there are a lot of bright spots right now with this team. It's just a lot of questions with it.
Yeah, and after last game against the Trailblazers, we talked about, what are some of the signs we're going to see? Are we going to see some of the signs against the Kings? And there weren't very many. But that defensive stretch in the second quarter where we kind of started doing a little bit more man, and we were able to cut into the lead and really kind of stymie them defensively. That's one of the signs that we were looking for.
And the difference is that lineup when we run a zone with them, guys are not getting the same looks because Chris Dunn, Ochai Agbaji, Taylor Hendricks, Larry Markkanen, Fontecchio, these are all guys who can react really well. And then Fontecchio or Markkanen, Hendricks, and Agbaji are so athletic and long that they have the ability to kind of hedge and recover in a zone. And so the zone works better when they're on the court because they're in the similar positions, right? That other players are. They just have the length, ability, knowledge on how to recover and not allow open threes.
Yep. The zone, we cover the zones better. We cover the man-to-man better. It's basically everything. And then after those guys went out in the second quarter, and that's when the holes really started to appear, and Keegan Murray went crazy, and we ended up back down. I think we were down 14 again by half. But
something we do need to talk about is a guy we have raved a lot about, and Chris Dunn had a very, very sloppy
that first
game.
half was rough
Very
on the
sloppy.
turnovers.
He had 6 turnovers tonight, and they were not good ones.
Nope. There's just kind of some moments that are careless and seem very unveteran-like. Kind of something that just seems out of character. And there have been other times this year that he's shown kind of being sloppy like that too. And it's tough to. He makes it hard to justify. Well, it just kind of takes away all the other strengths that he has, and makes it tough to play him.
With the guys that are the guys that we're playing right now, it's not hard to justify putting him on the court because he's very clearly the best, guard defender. It's just like you said, it hurts the good things.
Right. It takes it away, and I mean he still, pretty easily was taking, his defender down into the post and putting that push shot in there. And he ended up shooting a decent percentage, but just the careless turnovers were rough. And And it's too bad. It seems out of character for him. We didn't really see that much last year.
Yeah.
So I wonder what's happening with him and he's kind of getting that spotty playing time. It'd be interesting to see if he were to get kind of consistent time, he'll be able to settle into that. But man, some unveteran type moves of, dribbling into the key and jumping in the air and not having anywhere to go and just kind of silly stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I was confused almost seeing some of those passes. I was like, dude, what are you doing? Because he's an incredible passing point guard.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of those things, right, where everyone has a bad game. For example, Fontecchio shot really bad today from the 3-point line compared to what he's been doing recently. That's not one of those things where you look at and you're like, this guy sucks at shooting. You look at it as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as a whole, Fontecchio's been an incredible shooter, great scorer. Just a bad game. Everyone has him.
Yep.
Hell, Agbaji went like 1 for 7 or from 3 the other day. This is also the guy who leads the NBA in corner threes. It happens when you have a bad shooting night. It's just they can't be every night.
It's true. And our next game up is against the Nets. I thought last year when the Nets came to town that they defended us the strongest.
Uh-huh.
The matchup they had with, of course we know Royce O'Neal very well. Nick Claxton really gave us trouble in a lot of the switching and really kind of ate Kessler up, I thought, last year. Even Ben Simmons, I thought, was really tough in his man-to-man defense on Mark, and I thought he matched up with him really well.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see what they have this year. They have Mikal Bridges and Cam Thomas. Yep.
I really hope we put Kessler back in the starting lineup. What's funny is if you want to start Olynyk right now, everyone else is hurt. You can still start him and start Kessler. Markkanen is a small forward on this team. He's the 3.
That's true.
It's like now all of a sudden it's like, we can't put Fontecchio back on the bench. Like, why? Could Fontecchio come in and drop 15 points off the bench and give us good bench scoring?
Yeah.
That's his role when we're healthy.
It'll be interesting to see. Collins has been out sick for a long time.
He died.
Sorry
to break the news.
Breaking news. It'll be interesting to see what happens when he comes back. And apparently the sickness is running through a whole bunch of our teams. So
yeah, I thought Tucker was sick and not playing tonight. I was very excited about.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Here was my thought is that, are we finally going to have a situation where, because we talked about it from the start of the year, we have 3 combo guards that kind of have a lot of redundancy and overlap, and that's Clarkson, Sexton, right, and Horton Tucker. We think ideally it would be to run with one of them, having it come off the bench, and have the other 2 moved, and so that we weren't kind of seeing an over redundancy of high usage, not moving the ball players. I thought we were maybe going to have that tonight, but we don't have Keontae playing, so that wouldn't help. But that's kind of something that I would be looking for to see if we can get kind of the right mixture of having a strong combo guard coming off the bench and do their flamethrower role, but a lot of the other times have less high usage players that are moving the ball around, and so it kind of is more of a balance. That's kind of what I was hoping for.
The only problem is, that gives us 3 guards total right now. It would give us 3 guards, which would be Chris Dunn, Agbaji, and Colin Sexton. You can run a 3-guard lineup and run Fontecchio some minutes at the 2. He's already shown that he's willing to do that. That would be my answer.
Right. If it was me, obviously without Keontae, that wouldn't have worked. But that was my hope with Keontae there. Are we finally going to see one combo guard?
Who knows? Who knows? Monday, maybe Tucker is sick, and we'll see those minutes and run Fontecchio some at the 2.
I think that our team this year is obviously very heavily loaded at combo guard, and that's made it tough as a coach trying to play all those. I'd feel kind of some of the pain for Hardy, but it doesn't make up for all of my questions. So that I just kind of, in my mind, I'm hoping for more of a balanced rotation and roster kind of moving forward, and that's what I think it would be. Obviously, if we were to move Clarkson and Horton Tucker, we would get back some sort of a guard somewhere, somehow. And
yeah, it is.
So
dude, I don't know. Here, my one thing, though, is like, the whole different lineup every night. Like he's apparently taking that to heart because it is crazy as a player. I don't give a shit if you're a professional NBA basketball player. It is crazy to be like, hey, you're starting tonight. Okay, you're not starting tonight. You're getting 10 minutes. Hey, you're starting tonight. Okay, you're not starting tonight. You're getting, like back and forth. Boom, 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 boom.
Not only just 10 minutes, you're not playing at all.
Right, he's done that with Dunn. He's done that with Dunn. But even like Kessler, it's been since Kessler's been back, it's starting next night, benched, plays 10 minutes. Starting next night, benched, maybe plays 12 minutes. It's like that is crazy to do to players, especially young NBA players. Some players may be able to handle it a little bit better because they're veterans and they've been around the league and things like that. But oh my gosh.
It'd be interesting to see what the conversations are between Kessler and his family, right? Because, his dad was a high-level player. His uncle played in the NBA. Brother played at the University of Georgia as well, and what kind of conversations they're having and what's going on. That would be interesting to be a fly on the wall in that situation. Because I guarantee you there's a lot of questions and frustration and
100%.
Well, you got to work through it, son. Those kind of conversations. And
yeah, we so desperately want to start Olynyk, and fine, like I said, run Kessler and Olynyk together.
Kind of how we started last year, right? Well, we started with Vanderbilt, but essentially
those three have a lot. Markkanen, Kessler,
lineup.
And Olynyk have a lot of minutes together successfully.
Yeah.
So do it. It makes no sense to me, especially right now where we're kind of low on guards. I don't care that Yurtseven wasn't there and stuff like that. Between Hendricks, Olynyk, and Kessler, we have three guys who can rotate and play the five.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which we played all three of them at the five tonight, unless you're counting Markkanen playing the five when Markkanen and Hendricks were on the court together. Either way, we have the guys that can play the big. And so when a night like where Tucker may not play, for example, on Monday, just run Fontecchio at the 2. You still can have Fontecchio runs minutes at the 3 and the 2, and then Agbaji, Sexton, and Chris Dunn handle the rest of the guard minutes. And then Hendricks, Kessler, and Olynyk run the majority of the 5 and 4 minutes. Markkanen is the most successful on this team as a 3. Let's go back to that. When we have Kessler, Olynyk, and Markkanen healthy, or one of mix of Collins in there, whatever, put freaking Markkanen back at the 3 and stop screwing around with this shit.
Remember last year when he used to absolutely torch Harrison Barnes?
Yes,
because the mismatches he creates at the 3 are monster. He's very good at the 4 as well, right? But the mismatches he creates at the 3 are enormous.
Which all of a sudden he had. The little run we made in the fourth quarter, Markkanen had a good stretch in there. He was playing the 3. He was matched up against Harrison Barnes.
One thing we haven't talked about as well is the Kings running with their starting lineup all the way down to like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, they subbed everyone out but Chris Murray with 2.5 minutes left, and then another 30 seconds or so. Then they subbed out Chris Murray.
Or Keegan Murray, as someone
Keegan Murray, yeah, sorry. No, whatever.
You always screw up names just like an idiot. And then my only other question I was going to bring up is us putting Fontecchio on Sabonis. And having, in the first half, we were having Fontecchio be on him and having Walker Kessler, I think they're having him
guard Harrison Barnes.
Was it Murray?
Who's guarding Harrison Barnes?
Yeah, interesting.
That makes sense.
I don't know. That's weird for us to kind of go away from that.
If you think about it, it makes sense. Somewhere.
For somebody. Somewhere, Chris Murray actually plays for the Kings, and it makes sense.
Exactly.
Let's go with that. So Monday, Nets. They've got some talented offensive players this year. Obviously, they don't have the Kyrie Irving show and Kevin Durant like last year. But they're a team that can load up on points.
100%.
And so the matchup defensively would be interesting to see what we can produce and actually what lineup, if we can kind of halfway get healthy.
What lineup we're going to run, who's going to play.
Is Keontae even going to be back at that point? We're supposedly reevaluating him, right? I don't know how real a thing that is.
Yeah, it's a reevaluation, but I mean, I have no idea. I think tomorrow is kind of like the reevaluation day,
Mhm.
and then we'll know. But I'd be surprised to see him come back already. But you never know. They said he avoided any sort of serious injury. That'd be ideal. Tucker's sick, and Keontae's back.
He comes back feeling good.
And so we run our point guards are Chris Dunn and Keontae, and our shooting guards are Obaji and Colin Sexton. That runs some good lineups with Sexton if we're willing to put Sexton back as a 6-man in that
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, and those are challenging things for a head coach to kind of balance that and have that conversation with players. And before we sign off, we kind of have to wish the Cleveland Cavaliers Merry Christmas.
Oh my gosh.
I like Darius Garland a ton. Evan Mobley, love him. Both of those guys went out. They announced today going out for surgery.
Same day surgery for
For a
both
chunk of
those
time.
guys. And there's already been tons of questions on Donovan Mitchell leaving.
Yeah, and now there's talk Donovan Mitchell not just wanting the Knicks. I mean, he'll go to California. He'll go everywhere. He's basically already planned his route out of Cleveland.
Yeah, which I do not miss that circus.
No, that drama queen. Dude.
Every day wondering if he wants to actually play on your team, what's going to happen there and stuff like that. Yeah, right now sucks. We're not winning as many games when we had him and he was, the star of the team and stuff like that. But our future is a lot more. There's a lot more direction with our future.
Yeah, think about now for Cleveland. Basically, he's going to be heading out of town. No team is going to overpay for that guy.
Yep.
Because they know that he's wanting out of there, and basically, if he doesn't go to the right city, he's not going to extend for you. He's going to do the same thing to you he's done here, and same thing he's doing in Cleveland.
And their picks, first one starts in 2025. It's almost like the front office thought something like this would happen within 2 years.
We own their picks for 5 years in a row between first-round picks and pick swaps.
Yep.
And so if all of a sudden that goes out of town and they don't get much back for him, they still have some talented players, but man, a thing or two happens here and there, and all of a sudden that organization is struggling, and we have high-level picks, right? As we're ascending, they could be going heading down, and as our team's catching fire, we all of a sudden trade our pick spot for their pick spot in the draft. Mommy.
Yep.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, the future of picks and things that we could have, and that 2025 class, that's a good one. Cooper Flag. I mean, it's deep. It's not just Cooper Flag, right? It's a deep class, but man, Cooper Flag is the headline show of that draft class.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see what we have together at that point. Whether we've, at this point, we will keep our draft pick for this next draft.
Yeah.
Does it go to the next one? Do we have it for that one as well, or does it transfer to the 2026 year? It actually can go for 3 years.
Oh, really?
Draft.
Okay.
So that'll be interesting to see. And if you're a Cleveland fan, just imagine if you had not done the Donovan Mitchell trade. You would have Darius Garland, Ochai Agbaji, Markkanen at 3, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen.
Yeah.
Sexton coming off the bench.
Yeah, I forgot Sexton was in that trade too. Oh my god!
And you would have all 5-year draft picks.
That trade, we really won't know the full repercussions of that trade for 5-6 years.
Right.
But that's what's great, right? That's what's so freaking good about that is yes, there's so many question marks and frustrations of what, and of not winning games and all that stuff right now. But holy shit, it's almost like we're going to be having a lot of chances to get the right players on this team.
Right. At first everybody was kind of laughing quite a bit, and us too, about the Timberwolves and how kind of Rudy went in there last year, and it was a bit of a debacle. I really am still frustrated we sent him Mike Conley to give him that kind of a calming force, right?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of we've invested in their future. We need them to fail instead of keep helping them. But this year it's coming together, and they're playing together nicely. There's no question that Gobert is made them stronger. I still think they overpaid.
Yeah.
For getting what they got.
100%.
They paid a ton, and we got out from under a bad, salary and that kind of stuff. But it really is looking like long term, the Cleveland deal could be the better one.
100%. Which no one would have said when the trades happened. No one would have said that the Cleveland one was a better deal.
Yeah, and
because think about it, just right now, plus minus wise, Sexton and Markkanen seems like a pretty fair price. That's not talking about any of the trades. Agbaji, you throw in Markkanen, Sexton, and Agbaji for Donovan Mitchell. That seems like a damn good trade
for just 1.5 years or 2 years of Donovan Mitchell.
Right. That alone seems like a pretty freaking good trade, and that's before any of the draft picks happen. That's before 3 years from now, 4 years from now, and they've imploded and don't know what direction they're going or anything like that, and back to the same old Cleveland. But instead, we have the draft picks.
That's right. And so I think it's tough for us to picture right now, but as our team gets loaded up with talent acquisition and talent development, which will happen over these next 2-3 years, and then at that point, we're bringing on high-level draft picks every year with it, and that becomes a monster.
And something we haven't really mentioned or talked about is the fact that they're still looking at a contract extension for Markkanen. That still puts him, let's say 3 years from now, that's when we're really starting to figure things out. That still puts Markkanen 28, 29 years old, just towards the middle to end of his prime, and probably another 6 to 8 healthy years of being a 2 or 3 star.
That would be great if he goes that long, but it definitely fits within that timeline, especially if somebody who's high character dude wants to be here,
wants to be in Utah. He has very clearly talked about how much his family and him love being in Utah and the way they've been treated and everything like that. And so, very similar to Mike Conley, unfortunately. But he's a guy I could see being willing to wait out and ride out this storm with us, take a good contract that's good for him but good for us, and continue to be a veteran and leader on this team for a long time.
Absolutely. And basically kind of set the tone, set the locker room, as we're bringing on all these, young, talented players, some of them who can be, guys like that. You get some of them have heavy egos and big time me, and they need to kind of sit down and be set straight when they get into a veteran locker room and that kind of situation. So he's definitely a fit. It's a situation where if all of a sudden a plane hits some turbulence, he's not refusing to go on to the game and that kind of crap. I don't know if you remember that story. He even came out and talked about it.
Yeah.
He said he was texting his family that he was going to die, and then the team got back down and got on another plane, and he refused to get on and go.
Oh, I remember.
I've been on several plane rides where something happened. We had to go back and land and switch planes and do all that stuff. Still made the plane trip. I don't know, dude. That one irritated me, man.
I know. I remember when it happened how pissed you were.
Yeah. I don't know. Yet he gets in a car where there's a far more likelihood of being in an accident and dying,
right,
than being on a plane. I mean, wow. Statistics. Anyways, well, we wanted to end it by wishing Cavaliers fans Merry Christmas. We love you guys.
Yep. Very grateful
for the next 6 years.
Very grateful.
We love you. We love Memphis now.
Yes.
And you guys long term.
Exactly. All right, guys. We will see you guys Monday.